Very welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second season of Powerbreak with Dave on Hockeyfeber. My name is David, and I'm very pleased and happy to have this premiere here today. This is, as I said, the second season, of my separate series on my YouTube channel, Hockeyfeber. The first season, I managed actually to have not only profile some players from Sweden, but as well also from Finland, but also from Mexico. So haven't you seen the first season of the guests that I had? I think you should check it out because it was really great, and I thank you all for being a part of that show. And as I said, this is the second season, and this is the premiere, and my first premiere guest is Richard Gray from Great Britain, and I'm very pleased and happy to have him. I was invited to be a guest on his podcast, and we have talked about British ice hockey that connects us both because we are liking it a lot, and also as well other parts of hockey around the world. Very welcome, Richard Gray.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dave. It's interesting to be on the opposite side of this and being the interviewee for once. So thanks for having me and having me as your premier guest. I'm very honoured.
Yeah, of course. And for making that clear, if I wasn't so clear about it, you have a big part of the organization in England called the British Ice Hockey University Association, and you have been commentating on games, etc., and also been involved in certain teams and a lot of other things that you can tell us under this episode of Powerbreak with Dave. But the first question I have for you: how come that you started being interested in ice hockey, and how did it start for you as a person?
Well, it's interesting. My mum's was a figure skater when she was younger. So she was into getting me into on the ice when I was very small. So I think the first time I was on the ice, I definitely can't remember it. I had bob skates on, which are little 2-blade skates that you get and you put them over your shoes for kids. Eventually my Uncle Ali, he took me to a game. My mom and dad also took me to a couple of ice hockey games, and my grandpa was a goalie, and he played defence as well. Back in the old British hockey days, you would play for Dunfermline on one night and Edinburgh the next night. It was quite loose back in those days. And because of my grandpa's sort of influence and my mum being a skater and being interested in getting me down to the rink, and my uncle and my dad being willing to just see me do a sport, that's how I started. And I started skating when I was 3, and I had to do my skating badges to prove that I was good enough skater to play for Murrayfield Juniors. So I got them. It wasn't like, I'm not saying I was Torval and Dean, but I just had to show that I was competent enough on ice because I was younger. And then I joined the Murrayfield Junior Ice Hockey Club when I was 5, and that was how I got into ice hockey initially. And I played about a season and a half as a player, an outfield player. And then when I was 7, I decided I wanted to be a goalie for a while. So I was a goalie from age 7 till 16. And then I actually gave hockey up for a couple of years because of my exams and stuff, because I wanted to train to be a lawyer. So when I went back, I went back to playing outfield again. From 7 to 16, I was a goalie.
And yeah, so you said it yourself. You changed your position onto the goalie position. And when you talked about your studies, was that the way you came in contact with British Ice Hockey University Association?
Yeah. So when I was towards the end of my junior career in hockey, if you can call it a career. I mean, I wasn't paid. My parents were paid a fortune. But towards the end of that, my I had to really choose because I was playing rugby as well for Perthshire, and I love rugby. And I had to choose to play for rugby or ice hockey. And for those couple of years, I was quite enjoying the rugby. It was closer to home. And at 16 years old, not having to travel the country all the time, it was good. And there was a recce team in Perth or sort of an old timers session that you could go on and still get my hockey fix. So I went with I'll go and continue playing organised rugby for a couple of years. Towards the end of my high school, I actually fractured a vertebrae in my spine, and I was told probably I shouldn't play rugby anymore. And so I went back to ice hockey when I started university, and just at that time, the Edinburgh University Eagles were being formed by Amy Slater.
Yeah.
So I gave her a phone and ended up joining them. Oh, there's a fly just went past. Ended up joining them when I started university in first year, and I'm still kind of involved in them almost 20 years later. So that's how I got back into ice hockey. And that's eventually, after years of being involved with the Eagles and things, as player and then sort of manager type coach and then head coach until 2014. The British University Ice Hockey Association were looking for a fixture secretary to organise the fixtures for the whole cup season. We call it a cup. It's kind of a league style where you play each other in a round robin, and then there's a playoff, like a 1-game playoff between the north and the south at the end. But we had to organise all the fixtures because there's different divisions and stuff. And so I got taken onto the committee from that. So that's how I got into the committee. And then, as I say, they had the first nationals with a live streaming around, I think it was 2016. I'm probably going to get shouted at by Joe, who will tell me it's a different time. And I asked if we could add commentary to a game because I have always fancied doing it. And I loved doing it. And the folk at home seemed to enjoy having someone commentating. I'm not sure whether they would call me, Ricky Genera or anything like that. But they certainly seemed to enjoy it. And there was a bit of interaction. It's certainly less serious commentary than you're used to. And on the back of that, my friend Nick and I, who he joined me in commentary the following week at Nationals, 3 weekends of Nationals. He joined me the following week and assisted, and we commentated together. We decided we'd do a podcast, and that's the podcast you appeared in.
Yeah.
Fingers in a few different pies for the BUIHA. I was stepping down, but I also helped manage and assist with the Great British Universities team as well, who are going to the World University Games in Lake Placid in January. So so I've done lots of bits and pieces for the uni, and I do enjoy it because a lot of them are the proper salt of the earth fans like yourself that just love the game, and I'd rather deal with them than some of the sort of hangers on that you get at the higher levels, to be honest.
Yeah. So it sounds really, really, from my point of view, fantastic when you speak of this organization and how you talk about it, and I think it's great to hear also you talked about the rugby, and then you had the opportunity to continue doing some sports that you also enjoyed as hockey, and now in the perspective that you are in now, that you have continued being involved, but now changing focus in all those different perspectives in the organization, and that in that case must mean that it's very great to be a part of it, because otherwise you shouldn't continue.
Yeah, it's a good organisation. I know there's always going to be people that think that we're not the best at doing what we do, but I think we've got a good team. We're very, very keen to make hockey happen and make it happen and make people and let people enjoy it. And what I love about the BUIHA is, in the first weekend of Nationals, you have players who are really, really new to hockey that maybe only been playing a year, even an 18-year-old, coming in and giving it a go. And although you might think, oh, if you watched hockey your whole life and you've watched the NHL, you might be like, why would you want to watch that? But it's great because these people are enthusiastic, and yeah, there is some comedy kind of falls and things like that as well. But it goes from that level to sort of, I would describe it perhaps a level kind of slightly below, or somewhere in between the under 19s and like NHL 2. To put it in perspective. Level, and it's quite a good level. There's a lot of Canadians and Swedes and Finns and all sorts at that level, and it's really good. And we also have a women's division as well. I coach the Steel Queens. I thought I would put this T-shirt on.
Coach Rambo.
Yeah, Coach Rambo. Rambo is my hockey nickname.
Yeah. I think sorry if I interrupt.
No. Cool.
I think you said it that about the level and somebody falling. I know when we spoke the first time, when you invited me to the podcast, you asked me how I looked on hockey and what I enjoy seeing. It's not always about the perfect skill or exact precision. I can appreciate more when you see this eager and passion for sport. It doesn't need to be ice hockey, but in this case, I absolutely love it. So when I see that, I can really agree in what you say in the nationals and competition, that you can you don't focus on that fall. You focus on the whole thing. Yeah,
and it's quite funny actually. We have a Scandinavian fan, a super fan called I still don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. It's called Trygve from Norway.
Trygve.
Do you know him? I don't know if you know.
But that's how Trygve.
All right, okay. Yeah. Trygve. I'll try and get it right next time because I'm sure I butchered it on the live stream. But he joins us sometimes that we'll be signing on and doing our first game in the morning. It's like 8:00. You guys are obviously an hour ahead, and he's up having his cup of cocoa or whatever, a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and his breakfast. He's sitting watching us, and then he'll come back later in the day and say, "Oh, I've been out with my family. I've just put this on." We have the guy's never been involved in our association, so it's great when we get people like that. So yeah, I thought I'd bring him up since this is a Scandinavian podcast.
Scandinavian connection. I also saw a couple of games sometimes when I had the time. When you showed it on YouTube, when I had the time, I connected to the Chromecast down the living room, sitting with my coffee until the rest of the family told what they wanted to see, and I could go away in some corner, continue looking. But I'm as Trygve, as if I have the time, I can absolutely sit and enjoy that competition.
Yeah, it's good, and we like to think that, I know that sport is not about commentary; it's about the sport. But we like to think that having the same commentary set up for the newer people who are new to the sport and playing at their level, because that means so much to them. It shows them that we love it all from start to finish. So I'm glad to hear you watched a little bit of it. I think my biggest claim to fame, and Nick and I's biggest claim to fame, and I know that if he watches this back, he'll kill me for not mentioning it, is we got invited to Switzerland to commentate on the 100th varsity match between Oxford and Cambridge in St. Moritz outdoor. And it was one hell of an experience because St. Moritz is beautiful. Also, it was really, really cold. I think it got to -17, -18. And Nick had forgotten his gloves, and he thought it would be okay because he could put his hands in his pockets and they would give us a head mic. But no, they gave us a fist mic. So Nick spent the entire game swapping hands with his mic and all stuff. But it was class. It was so good to be part of that. And then neither of us have any affiliation with Cambridge or Oxford. who are two of the oldest clubs in the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was
Fantastic experience and
Yeah.
a memory for life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from what I have seen, and when I go into the website looking on the British Ice Hockey Association, from what I have seen, I think you all do a fantastic work, and that you are of big importance for ice hockey in general in UK, bigger than you may think. I think many enjoy what you do because you do it really great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I have also understand that they have these summer camps and have had for not only this year but also earlier in Finland, right?
Yeah, they go to a place called Viidamäki. You've told me it's near Helsinki.
Yeah.
I know it's about, in the bus that we get, because we get a coach. We kind of go. We fly into Helsinki. It takes about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So it's not too far. And we sometimes go to games. Went to Lahti the last time I was there, and we went to, I've forgotten the name. Coco.
Yeah.
Coco. So we went to see those two teams. That was the winter camps. I've not been to the summer one yet, because it's been mainly winter ones, and then COVID kind of rejiggered the schedule, so it ended up being back to the summer. It used to be a summer camp back in the day, and then they moved it to winter because obviously Finland has got it's got loads of great winter activities, and I had to go cross country skiing and fell over on my face and everything. So yeah. So I've been twice in the winter, once with the GB University girls, and once with the as a sort of an assistant coach as part of the camp itself, and it's a great experience. And actually, I loved being with the GBU girls, and I got a chance to do a little bit of coaching with them. But I was there as a manager, so I was more setting up jerseys and things like that. But it was slightly, I wouldn't say this, it was rewarding being with the GBU girls because they got the chance to play this team from China who had a lot of people who were trying to get into the Olympics for the China team. So that gave them a massive experience. But it was also really rewarding the second time coaching a lot of beginners and stuff, and helping them sort of develop their skills and stuff. And some of them, at the end, had some free time, they came and asked me about different things. And that was really good to see them get better over the course of a week, because it's quite intensive. So it's two completely different experiences for me being there. But yeah, it's a great camp. Ryan Rathbone, who's one of the main guys who runs it, kind of thing. Because it used to be just a Nottingham Mavericks camp, who were one of the university teams.
Yes.
And then they opened it up, and then the BUIHA took it over, and to try and make it more inclusive for everybody. But there's still a bit of a Nottingham feel about it, because I think traditionally the Nottingham kids remember it from, or they get it told at the start of the year, because it used to be a Nottingham thing. But it's now, there's folk from Glasgow were there when I was there, Edinburgh, the Steel Queens, and then there was folk from as far down as Southampton. So it was pretty unique experience, having folk from all over the place on the ice, and then scrimmaging together, and getting a chance to skate outside together, all that sort of stuff. It was
yeah, really... And I think, I don't know, but I if I would have been an active ice hockey player in any kind of level, being able to go in any kind of camp, I mean, that experience to just go and know that now I will be given the opportunity to use this ice rinks and everything that you are going to experience must be great, travel to another country, seeing stuff that actually not are connected directly to ice hockey, but I mean, it gets so much experience, I think, to have in continuance going on when you get back, and inspired to continue, of course, hopefully playing ice hockey, having that experience.
Yeah, I think so. And at the end of the day, when you're playing a sport, whether you're playing it at the highest level or the lowest level, you just want to get better and you want to create memories because that's what sport is about. I mean, to me, essentially, the best definition of sport I ever heard was just sport reminds you that sport makes you forget about death.
Yeah.
Which is pretty dark, but when you think about it, it's more like, well, it does. It's an outlet to make you forget about bad things in the world or whatever at the time. And these camps really do create memories. And from what I understand, the summer one was fantastic. A couple of Steel Queens girls went on it, and they were raving about how great it was. So, yeah, the camps are. There's something I think we actually should really be proud of because there's no other real section that just does that unless it's sort of for a national team or something. This is just done purely for anyone, and they get to go abroad and kind of experience a more international camp feel. And Viramaki's was the Olympic training centre for Finland for the Finnish teams. So it's pretty much like training to be in the World Juniors without training to be in the World Juniors, if you know what I mean. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, but you're just getting that, how should I say, that experience that just a few persons in the world get chance to feel. I have to say. I mean, otherwise everybody should do it every time, and I mean that must be fantastic to be being able to know that I can come to such place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I as I say, I think it's something that our section at the British University Ice Hockey Association should be really proud of.
Yeah.
In terms of creating that experience for people.
Yeah, because from my point of view, being a Swede, coming from a country that are a big nation for ice hockey, I talked to actually my first guest from Great Britain ever, Scott Henderson from Scotland, from Solway Sharks. He told me when he played representing Great Britain in university side in, I think it were in Kazakhstan or Russia, I don't remember.
Yeah, they've been
He
to
told
Kazakhstan.
me in the interview that the experience he had coming into this arena, seeing all this audience was fantastic. Being able to be with the team, and I mean, you can compare it, even if it's not in competition. To be in a camp, it's a similar feeling. You feel that you have put your focus to do just that.
Yeah.
So it's super cool.
Yeah, it's exactly that, and it's I mean, the first time I was there, the Great British University girls hadn't made the cut for university games, so this was a sort of in place of their trip to what would have been, I think at the time, I've forgotten, was it Switzerland? And the guys had an amazing time in Switzerland. So it's to me it was good. It was good for them because they got to play this, as I say, this Chinese team that were there training. Some of their players were training to try and get into the Olympic team. So it gave them a pretty good experience. And then the second, as I say, but it's all done. There's a proper warm up. There's a proper there's off ice activities. There's like stuff that's a bit more, and then there's free time obviously, but it's a bit more like being in a training camp, and everyone comes home, and on the train, on the flight home, there's hardly anybody speaking to anybody because everyone's passed out, absolutely exhausted. So I mean, it must be a good time.
Yeah, fantastic. So now we have had an opportunity to know how you started getting interested in hockey and your work with the British Ice Hockey University Association, and also the camp that they usually used to have outside of Helsinki. If you say to Sweden, it's close when it's 1 hour because it's so far away between the houses. And if you live in a big city, 1.5 hours maybe is not so close. But anyway, it was fantastic to hear the stories about how this organization are built, and my interest for British ice hockey have just increased. So I thank you so much for sharing all the things that you have told us, and it was really fantastic. And another topic I had for this interview was to hear your opinion about the National Ice Hockey League in England.
Yeah, so the National Ice Hockey League in England, I mean, I'm being honest, I don't go to a lot of games. I was at a game in April there because obviously I'm Scottish based, and I tend to be running around doing stuff for my teams. But it's really good. I think the National League's brilliant for a stepping stone between junior and then into people who want to be in the elite league or get into Great Britain and stuff. And during COVID, the National Ice Hockey Association really showed its worth by giving a lot of the Brits who were going to the Worlds a chance to play in some organised hockey, because the Elite League wasn't playing during COVID for a good while, and then they eventually had this sort of stadium series where they only had 4 teams and everybody got drafted and all this sort of stuff. But the actual National Ice Hockey League, I watched a few games, and some of those players went on to play for Great Britain. Liam Kirk, for example, who was drafted into the NHL, he was over here for the Steel Dogs, the team that he played for when he was 16. And he just loves hockey. As soon as his OHL team shut down, he went and played for a third division team in Sweden. I can't remember the name of them off the top of my head.
Hornhals.
That's right, yeah. And then he went and played for the Steel Dogs, and in fact we got the chance to interview him on the podcast, and just a really great guy. But so the National Ice Hockey League in that sense is a great stepping stone. But I suppose the one that we're most interested in up here is the North, because that's the one where there's the biggest chance of maybe some Scottish teams joining rather than later, because that's the NHL One North. Solway are already in that. Murrayfield were in the Cup. Murrayfield Racers, it's now the Edinburgh Capitals. Dundee Comets were also in the Cup a couple of years ago as well, and I think they got to the final or something. I can't remember how they got on. Yeah. But yeah, the National Ice Hockey League is, to me, I think it's probably, for me, it's more entertaining than the Elite League.
Yeah, I can agree to that also, because I feel that it's not that the teams in the Elite League is not good, but I think it could be more fair to give in the chance to how should I say, getting a good platform to start from, and to kind of build from that. If you, for example, if you are into British ice hockey, compare Cardiff Devils that have for many years competing in the CHL and done it really well, and how they have managed to do it and build it up, comparing to the lower teams in the Elite League. I think it's not fair, because they have a different, how should I say, start platform. Because of the location. Because I think it's, if you compare, for example, Fife and Cardiff, I mean, Cardiff is a city that many know, and it's companies, it's big interest, and they can get sponsors. And even if the people in Fife are super great in doing what they do, it's harder for them creating opportunities to do what Cardiff do, because of they need the same amount of money. It's boring to say if you play in that kind of league, I think, but to of course you need to search for talent, but then you have to get them there also. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. It's great. It's quite the Elite League, I think, it's got the haves and have-nots, and it's the same sort of teams every year that are competing for the top, and then there's a sort of undercard of teams that will maybe upset somebody one day, and occasionally there'll be I think Fife Flyers maybe 4 or 5 seasons ago managed to make the finals.
Hmm.
But it pains me to say it. But the Fife Flyers probably have one of the best fan bases in the UK in terms of loyalty.
That because I have seen when people talk about, for example, their arena, Rock the Barn, and from what I've come to understand, that they have, as you said, a super strong support, and I just absolutely respect and love that, and that's what is fantastic with hockey. So I don't in any way want to put them in a bad view, but I think it's unfair to compare them with the opportunities that the bigger teams in the elite league have, comparing to them, because they do a hell of a good work, but they need more opportunities and better platforms to develop even more good chances.
Yeah, that's definitely right. And I actually think that Fife would be a team that would be kind of almost perfect for the NHL, maybe taking a step forward. Back in the day, there was the two kind of professional leagues. There was there was the Elite League, or I think it was the Super League maybe back then, and then there was the British Premier League, or the BNL, and having those two leagues was perfect, because that's where Fife were perfectly sat in the BNL, competing with that group of teams that all competed with each other each week, and then you had your Super League teams that were all competing with each other each week. So it meant that it wasn't maybe better quality hockey, but it was more competitive hockey, which is what you want at the end of the day. So yeah, I think I think that's the difficult thing for Fife. Dundee Stars, I think, are another team that struggle to compete. The Clan do a bit better because they're owned by, I think, the same person that owns the Flyers, the Nottingham Panthers. But in terms of the Scottish teams, they do definitely struggle. The teams with the big arena teams, the likes of Belfast, Cardiff, Nottingham, Sheffield, they do really well because
in another perspective, they have also succeeded in some players to find really good players. For example, a really good Swede, Rasmus Bengtsson, playing for Dundee this last season. He was one of the top players, bringing up points, being top 3, being much better than a lot of players from this Sheffield and Nottingham and many. So it's not that they have, but I mean, if you just have them for one season, if you see the bigger teams, they can have this agreement with contracts in a way that the smaller clubs can't. If they do one great season, the bigger sharks are there to find them directly, and they have to begin all over again. As we said, it isn't that the smaller teams is having trouble finding the talent. It's the trouble, I think, not only for Great Britain, but as well for other countries. The trouble is for them to make them stay, because they getting more attractive contracts, coming to new, maybe larger leagues. And you have this specific few players in each team that really, I think, grows with a team, that really wants to be just a part of that team. So for example, if we talk about Fife, Shane Owen, as I think, is one of the best goalies in the Elite League. If we just have to name one player in Fife that I think is really good, that is a big profile for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest follower of the Elite League, and I'm certainly not a Fife Flyers fan, being from Edinburgh and growing up playing for Murray. But I remember last year when we were playing a lot of games in Fife, going in one night and seeing him, and he was absolutely exceptional. So I can attest to him being a very good goalie. I saw him in the flesh it was only a brief 5-10 minutes, but he looked fundamentally very, very good. He's a great goalie.
Yeah.
He's still with them this season, which is good. So
yeah, so I think each team in Great Britain, not only the biggest, have in that case, if we have to round off the comparing National Ice Hockey League to Elite League, of course, each team have their profiles that really are keen to play just for them. But I think it needs to be more even for many of the British teams in the Elite League, comparing to the National Ice Hockey League in any level.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I do think that I hope one day that they do bring back or they elevate the NHL National to be more akin to what the BNL was a few years ago, as I talked about before, where I think that teams that are slightly maybe lower in the Elite League would fit in, and there's some teams in NHL who could probably take a step up. Like I do think that if the Steel Dogs say they had a league where at the moment the Elite League is something ridiculous like 14 imports as well, which is more than half a team. But in the Elite League, say they had another league with 7 imports at the BNL. I do think like the Steel Dogs and the Bees and that sort of thing could probably compete at that level. And that would be a good sort of in between league, because I think the thing, especially with Great Britain and having international aspirations and stuff, the key is progression. And I say kids, I feel like an old man now, but some people at 18, 19, once you get past under 20s, if you're in a league that's NHL 2, you might get up to NHL 1, but it's a lot harder if there's not like a something to get even to elevate you more. So if you go into NHL 1 or 2, you're not unlikely to ever make the Elite League from there. Whereas if you have like NHL feeding more into the Elite League or a league in between the NHL and stuff, it would feed everyone up more, and that would hopefully progress players who will become professional quicker if there's a second professional league.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. You need professional players to win international tournaments. You're in Division 3, but Britain don't have that aspiration. They want to be back in the elite group. They want to be playing Canada and USA and Sweden. They don't want to be playing in a lower level. So they need to find a way to sustainably develop players, and that, whether that's coming up with some kind of deal with another, like a Canadian league where they send players that they think, well, they're not going to get a lot of ice time in the elite league, so they're going to go and play junior or whatever in Canada. That might be another thing that they could look at. But the pathway is getting better, but it's not where it needs to be if they want to be in the elite group of international for a long time.
But for also rounding off the topic that I started off having with the National Ice Hockey League, because we have actually talked about it when we have the first ever contact to each other. I think it's also needed to be. I may be the biggest British ice hockey fan from Sweden, but I also think it's necessary, because I've talked to you about this also, that if they have to have a national ice hockey league, I think it's necessary not only for the men's league but also for women to have more teams from Scotland and also from Wales representing. If it are meant to be for the whole area, because you can't have the most north team being from Leeds and then it's one team, as you said, NHL 1 Solway Sharks. It's not.
There's the Sharks in Whitley Bay, just a couple hours over the border, but there's apart from that, it's like Leeds and Sheffield and Nottingham are in the north, and Nottingham is quite far south to me, but that's That's how I feel about it. But
Mm.
yeah, and in the women's league, as we talked on our kind of false start last on Tuesday there, and from our perspective, from the Steel Queens perspective, that's something that we're hoping to maybe progress towards is being
That
that
that I
that
can really understand, and I think that is very important if the sport are going to grow on not only just one specific place, but also increasing in a bigger area.
yeah, I think so. I think so.
And I have also had before guests on my British series. I had Tyler Plues from Swindon Whitecaps, fantastic guest, have representing Edinburgh Capitals in the Elite Ice Hockey League when they played there. And I thought, and I think you agreed when I told that would be one of those kind of teams that could be really great for playing in the highest league in the National Ice Hockey League.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Capitals are now back. The Racers, and I mean they're at the same level, and a lot of the players are the same players. But the Capitals are now back in Edinburgh, and I think I think before they have aspirations of ever going back to the Elite League, I think the NHL One or NHL North is where they should. So NHL One North or NHL National is where they could head and would be perfect for them because they get a decent crowd. The Edinburgh teams normally, but there's not a lot of unity because there's a sort of lot of. There's been a little bit of kind of back and forth racers, people jumping off when they became the Racers, and probably Racers fans will jump off when they become the Capitals. And at the end of the day, it's Edinburgh's only senior team. So as much as I probably sound a bit pious, please go and support them if you can.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, it's one. We talked about this briefly as well. It's one hockey family. So, as much as when we're on the ice or when we're watching our team, we want our team to kick ass against whatever team they're playing. It's still about progressing the game. So please try and support your local teams, even if you go to a recce game and sit in the crowd and have a beer. Just enjoy hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. And actually, I'm going when I'm turning 40. I'm going with the whole of my family to go to Edinburgh, and when we come there, we will take the train to. I don't know. You talked about Trygve earlier. I don't know if I pronounce this right now. We're going to take then the train from Edinburgh to Kirkcaldy.
Oh, that's pretty good. It's Kirkcaldy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the L. You don't pronounce the L.
Okay. Yeah, I tried at least.
That was pretty good, I have to say.
But then we are going to go there, and I actually gonna go and see a Fife game.
Good, yeah.
Because I have wanted to go because I have heard so much about this barn, Rock the Barn. I wanted to go to this certain arena to see, because I have seen that from the outside, and I think that in money perspective can be a memory for me for life, telling my grandkids that I did go to Fife, seeing the Fife Flyers, and being one of the few Swedes doing that. Too bad that they couldn't be there. But then I also hope when I saw it for this season that I could see the reuniting of Edinburgh Capitals, if because we are going to go back to Edinburgh, so then maybe I can catch an SNL game, so I have the complete Scottish hockey experience.
Yeah, when is it you're coming? Are you coming across this year or is it?
In April we are trying to go.
That might be a little bit late for the season. That's the only thing.
I saw the schedule. They had games planning for April, but I saw wrong. but it looked, at least for the Fife. I don't know for the Edinburgh, but
Fife finishes their last game of the regular Elite League season is at home is on the 1st of April.
Yeah.
Against Dundee.
But
that's actually a good game to go to.
We haven't exactly planned the exact date for the importance is that I'm going to celebrate my birthday and I'm promised hockey.
It's fair enough.
So
fair enough. You could get on a train to Sheffield maybe and come down to Nationals as well.
Yeah.
I
mean, Sheffield, in so many ways, they have so much ice hockey in that town.
Sheffield. Again, I grew up not being a fan of Sheffield, but Sheffield is the UK equivalent of what Detroit is to America. It's hockey town.
Yeah.
UK. It's the biggest hockey town in the UK, and their facilities for hockey are amazing. I mean, Nottingham's got good facilities, but I would say that Sheffield slightly trumps that because it's more focused on ice sports, whereas Nottingham's facilities quite often used for gigs and stuff, so it gets pulled in different directions.
Yeah. I interviewed Jonas Westling that have played in Sheffield Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me have been played in Hockeyallsvenskan almost 600 games, that the experience going from Sweden to Sheffield when he played there for the season that he did, he was completely in love being able to play for that specific team and the surroundings and the fans and such. So he completely told the thing that you said, that it's a fantastic environment to play in.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to walk down the street of Edinburgh and ask people if they knew about ice hockey in Edinburgh, I mean, a lot of people in Edinburgh in the streets are tourists in certain parts, but if you walk down the street and speak to a local, a lot of them won't even know. Some of them might not even know we have a hockey team or we have any hockey in Edinburgh. Whereas if you walk down the street in Sheffield and speak to someone about the Steelers, they'll know who the Steelers are. They'll probably know how their season's going. And it's the same in Fife. As much as it pains me to say it, because being a Murrayfield boy, Fife, in Kirkcaldy, if you ask someone who the Fife Flyers are, even if they don't go all the time, they know who the Fife Flyers are, and they'll know a bit about how their season's going and all sorts. Because it's Fife is, I suppose, and again, it pains me to say it, Fife is hockey town Scotland, and Sheffield's hockey town UK. Okay. Those are the big hubs for hockey, and they're passionate fans, and and a lot of people playing recce hockey and stuff in Fife, and
from what I've seen, I watched a lot of, not just specifically Fife and Sheffield, but also other teams. A lot of YouTube channels looking at the games. From what I have come to understand, they have, as you said, a large support from fans and from the town, and it's strongly connected with ice hockey.
Yeah.
So anyway, I haven't exactly any specific date, but of course I will make sure to pick a date where they play. It would be bad if I go all the way and it wasn't any game. But what I hope is maybe that I can catch some Edinburgh Capitals, because we are also going to stay in Edinburgh.
Cool. Well, give me a shout when you're coming over, and we'll try and make sure you get some hockey and maybe a pint as well.
Absolutely, I will do. So I'm really, me and my wife actually have before talked about that we have wished to try to live in Edinburgh for a time if we had the opportunity to find work. So I was telling her before I knew that the Edinburgh Capitals was started again. I said it's too bad that the Edinburgh Capitals don't exist anymore because I know that they had that hockey team. So then my wife, of course, you know that they have had a hockey team, and then she laughed. So I mean, I have seen and heard about the Capitals before, and I think they are great.
Cool. Well, I mean, you've got the Caps, and then I mean, depending on what time you come, there might be some other hockey going on. So I'll keep you up to date with anything, and you can any games you can get yourself along to.
Hello guys, David here from Hockeyfeber. This is the end of the episode of my premiere episode of the second season of Powerbreak with Dave on Hockeyfeber. Today's premiere guests, as you know, were Richard Gray from British University Ice Hockey Association that began of inviting me to the podcast that he have. I thank him so very much for being my premiere guest of the second season Powerbreak with Dave. We actually tried, me and Richard, we tried really hard to make a recording of the end of this interview. We thought, or I thought, we have succeeded. But we didn't, cause the last recording haven't had any sound. So I have really had a lot of technical experience this evening, so I thought I would like to round off this episode this way, so you understand how it turned out. And as I said, I thank so very much Richard for being a part of Powerbreak with Dave. Thank you for your patience with my lack of technical skills. I really appreciate it. I think you are a fantastic person with a lot of energy and love for the sport that we all love, ice hockey, and I wish you all the best of success in the future with whatever you will do. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and hopefully next time when we talk to each other in some way, it will be in a bar in Scotland with a pint talking hockey, as we said in the end of this interview. It would be great. And I have learned, as I said, many things this evening. My patients have been really trained. And I thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed that you watched. And I thank Richard Gray for being my first premiere guest of the second season of Powerbreak with Dave. For those of you that doesn't subscribe or follow, make sure to push the subscribe button and follow Hockeyfeber on social media so you don't miss out of anything that I put out on my social media or YouTube. I wish you all a pleasant evening, and thank you all for watching. Take care. Bye bye.